Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're tackling a massive and honestly rarely talked about problem in the personal finance world, the sheer bone-wearing exhaustion of extreme frugality. If you're on the path to financial independence, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You might even be feeling that burnout right now. So, we're going to explore how a concept called slow FI can help you literally reclaim your time today without sacrificing your future security. Let's dive in.
You know, a lot of us kick off our financial independence journey with this incredibly strict, almost punishing mindset. We somehow convince ourselves we have to deny ourselves every single luxury, track every penny with obsessive precision, and just white-knuckle our way through a miserable decade to eventually buy our freedom. It's like we're told we have to be a frugal martyr. Suffer now, put your head down, and hey, maybe you get to be happy later.
But here's the massive problem with that traditional advice. It's just so aggressive. It pushes you to stash away 50, 60, or even 70% of your income. And sure, optimizing every dollar sounds great on paper, but when you live in that hyper-optimized state, you are literally postponing your happiness until you hit some mythical spreadsheet number. You tell yourself, I'll travel when my portfolio is big enough, or I'll enjoy my weekends when I'm 50. You end up treating your present life like a waiting room. And living your entire youth in a waiting room, that's a guaranteed recipe for severe burnout.
Before you get stressed out watching some influencer retire at 30 while you're still grinding at 45, let's talk about the pineapple rule. Fun fact, back in the 1800s, a pineapple was a sign of extreme, unimaginable wealth. People would literally rent them, yes, rent them, just to show off at parties as the ultimate status symbol. Today, that ridiculous historical quirk is the perfect reminder to just run your own race. Stop comparing your Chapter 1 to someone else's Chapter 20, and definitely stop comparing your everyday life to their carefully curated highlight reel. Let's fix your pace instead, so you can actually enjoy the journey.
Section 1. The Graveyard Trap. Hardwiring Scarcity. Let's look at what happens when you sprint way too fast.
Sprinting toward a retirement finish line brings up a terrifying and honestly, mostly ignored hidden danger. Think about spending a whole decade in extreme scarcity mode. You're turning off the heat in the dead of winter to save a few bucks, refusing to eat out with friends, agonizing over the cost of every single grocery item. Doing this year after year forces your brain into a perpetual state of deprivation. The real danger here isn't a stock market crash. It's that you literally forget how to live. And trust me, that scarcity mindset, it's incredibly hard to just turn off once you finally reach your goal.
Just look at the stark contrast between these two paths. You've got the frantic sprint to fire on one side and the slow, intentional build of slow-fi on the other. Prominent financial independence voices Alan and Katie Dunnigan actually experienced this trap firsthand. They were incredibly frugal on their way to independence. They refused to use the heating, never bought lunches out, the whole 9 yards. But once they hit their magic number, they realized the very habits that got them to financial independence were stopping them from enjoying it. They were paralyzed by the thought of spending money. They realized if they didn't actively force a mindset shift, they were going to end up the richest people in the graveyard.
So I want you to ask yourself honestly, right now, if you defer all your joy, all your hobbies, and your social connections to some mythical retirement date 10 or 15 years away, you risk waking up with a massive bank account but absolutely zero hobbies and no close relationships. Would you rather trade 5 years of your youth for an earlier retirement, or slow down your savings rate just a bit and start living a genuinely rich life today?
Which brings us to Section 2, the solution, the part-time pivot. To escape this burnout trap, you've got to embrace slow FI. This means intentionally using your financial foundation to design a life you actually enjoy right now, rather than waiting for traditional retirement. One of the absolute best strategies for this is the part-time pivot, sometimes called coasting or barista fire. Basically, you downshift your career to a lower-stress role that just covers your basic living expenses while letting your existing investments quietly compound in the background. The emotional relief here is huge. Taking your foot off the gas relieves the pressure of that suffocating waiting room existence. You aren't deferring your life anymore, you're living it right now, on your own terms.
Let's look at a real-world example. Bloggers Chris and Jenny built an impressive $2.5 million net worth. But instead of quitting the world entirely to sit on a couch, they designed a beautiful, slow FI life. Just look at this difference in monthly work hours. While a traditional worker logs 160-plus hours a month grinding away, Chris and Jenny now clock a combined total of only 30 to 50 hours of paid labor per month. That's barely a standard work week, but spread across an entire month? No way, right? How do they actually pull that off? Well, Jenny still works part-time as a PRN pharmacist, stepping in during busy periods to keep her skills sharp.
Chris runs a consulting business and turned his hobby of rescuing and repairing old Apple devices into a genuinely fun side gig. Because they strategically built a life with zero debt and a completely paid off home, this small, enjoyable part-time income alongside their investment dividends completely covers their high-quality lifestyle. They get the purpose, the socialization, and the mental stimulation of working while magically getting 90% of their time back. It's an absolutely incredible setup.
But hey, stepping back from full-time work is only half the battle. How do you fix that deep psychological damage of extreme frugality we talked about earlier? Well, to actively break out of those extreme habits, the Dunnigans implemented a really clever psychological trick, the 1% rule for fun.
The crucial point here is the strict agreement they made with themselves to rewire their brains. They decided that for every 500,000-pound milestone they hit in their net worth, they absolutely must spend 1% of it purely on joy. And I can't emphasize enough how difficult this was for them at first. For someone used to saving every single penny and optimizing every transaction, forcing yourself to blow a large chunk of money purely on fun is, well, it's physically uncomfortable. It feels wrong. But they had to force themselves to practice spending on happiness just to shatter that ingrained scarcity mindset.
Moving on to Section 3, maximizing present wealth.
Maximizing your present wealth means consciously giving yourself permission to experience a 10 out of 10 in happiness today, rather than waiting for tomorrow. And here's the profound secret of the slow FI movement. Living a beautifully rich life doesn't actually require extravagant spending. You don't need to fly first class to the Maldives every month. I mean, if you can, more power to you. But for the rest of us, you just need the time and the mental energy to seek out the meaningful experiences that truly matter.
When you aren't completely exhausted from surviving a 60-hour week in a corporate cubicle, you suddenly have the energy to exploit amazing local magic. Chris and Jenny, for example, use their time freedom to enjoy unhurried Friday picnics at the local Fine Arts Museum. They hit up local Lebanese food festivals to enjoy incredible treats and cultural dances for just $50. They go to free Mother's Day community concert band performances. When you get your time back, you realize the magic is already happening right in your own zip code. You just needed the bandwidth to actually see it. You can actively implement this today. Actually, it's easier than you'd think. By explicitly dedicating funds to everyday joy, like slightly bumping up your grocery budget so you aren't stressed in the checkout line analyzing penny per ounce metrics, and allocating a guilt-free monthly fun budget, you fundamentally change your relationship with money. Because your daily life is already fantastic, you can comfortably extend your working timeline without feeling trapped. You aren't desperately running away from a life you hate anymore because you've intentionally built a life you love right now.
Finally, Section 4, reclaiming your autonomy.
Ultimately, true financial independence is realizing that the extraordinary is deeply rooted in the mundane. This is the anti-hustle mandate. Use your money as a tool to reclaim your autonomy today. Take a step back. Drop the extreme frugality that's draining your spirit. Transition to a lower stress job or deliberately take a pay cut to get your precious time back. The goal isn't to cross an arbitrary finish line completely exhausted and empty. The goal is to design a life you never actually need to retire from.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a crucial, thought-provoking question. If you scaled back your savings rate tomorrow and suddenly only worked 15 hours a week, what passion project or hobby would you finally have the energy to pursue? Think deeply about that. Stop waiting for the perfect spreadsheet number to start living. Stop comparing your pineapples and start designing your joy today.